So, how did I come to believe in universalism? Well, it's important for me to begin by saying that my natural inclinations have always been to believe in universalism. From an early age, I was interested in religion and spirituality, and I was not inclined to believe that any religion would lead somebody to hell. I didn't think that God would condemn people because of choosing the wrong beliefs. I always had a tendency to believe in a loving and merciful God who would try to lead us on the right path. But if we got something wrong, God wasn't going to be throwing us in a fire for eternity. So that was kind of my natural instinct, was to be a universalist. However, when I became a Christian, I felt very strongly called to follow specifically the path of Jesus Christ, beginning in my early 20s. I became a Christian, and at that point, I actually started thinking about the possibility that maybe there is only one way to avoid being condemned by God. The reason that I started wondering about that or worrying about it was because that is what standard Christianity teaches. And so I started, actually moving away from my natural inclination to believe in universalism. And it actually became a pretty significant issue for me because when I became a Christian, I joined a charismatic evangelical church. And in that church, they taught that if you're not born again, as evidenced by certain demonstrations of your salvation, such as speaking in tongues, prosperity in your life, and they were big believers in the prosperity gospel, that might mean that you weren't truly saved. So you would have to be demonstrating these miraculous occurrences or whatever in order for you to really feel sure about your own salvation. And this was it was something I worried about because at the time, actually, when I became a Christian, things were not going well in my life. I was actually experiencing chronic illness. Then I lost my job. And in general, my life was just not going well. So I also found that I couldn't speak in tongues. When I tried to do it, it seemed completely unnatural. I felt that I was just faking it. And so I began to wonder, well, maybe is my conversion to Christianity, is my salvation really real? Or, maybe God just doesn't want me. And so I started worrying a lot about the possibility of hell. The more that I thought about it, I became depressed, anxious. It really was hurting my mental health. And I started thinking, well, is there any way that I can be a Christian and not believe in a God that would condemn people simply because they haven't, met certain kind of arbitrary criteria for salvation, even if they're trying to do their best in life. And I started researching online, and I found some ministries that teach the idea that everyone will ultimately be saved, that God is loving and merciful, and that God is leading us on a journey to salvation. And for some of us, it may take longer than others. Some people, it may take ages and ages of time. I found these online ministries that were very influential in my spiritual journey. Ministries that were created by conservative evangelical pastors. People like Gary Amirault, who started tentmaker.org. His ministry did a tremendous amount of good for many people, and certainly in my spiritual journey toward Christian Universalism, it was very influential for me because of how he used the Bible to show that this point of view is actually legitimate for Christians to believe, that all will ultimately be saved. There were also some charismatic Pentecostal teachers that I got very interested in their writings. For example, Preston Eby was one that I read a lot of his works. Also Charles Slagle, And there were quite a few others, but those were some of the most influential ministries that caused me to really start to believe that, yes, you can be a Bible-believing Christian and believe that God ultimately will save all people. I would say that universalism has a big effect on my day-to-day life by giving me a much more positive attitude about life in general. By believing in an all-loving God who has a plan to save everyone and is patient with us no matter how long it takes us to reach where He wants us to be. It really fills me with a feeling of hope and joy and a sense of purpose, that life is something good, and that the world, that the universe has a positive plan. If I had to believe that that God is full of anger against most people, and anger that will never go away, and that God intends to condemn most of us for our flaws and mistakes or things that we get wrong about what we believe, I mean, my goodness, that would just be such a tragic and depressing worldview. And so, going through life thinking that, I mean, I think it would be very sad. And I have experienced that, actually, of when I did used to believe, or at least worried about the possibility that maybe God is a God who condemns most people. It made me into a much more negative person. And so by believing in universalism, I just feel much more at peace. I have a much more positive attitude about God, who God is, and also who I am as a soul, as a beloved child of God. And that I feel that I know that God loves me and that God has a positive plan for me. And even if things might not be going well at any particular time, that God is never going to give up on me, no matter what mistakes I make or what I might get wrong. So it has a big effect on my day-to-day life, and a very positive one.